There's. Hi, Meg. Hi, Tony. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey,
How are you? See, now we're just saying hi, and it's not like we were talking before the recording started. Now it's totally natural that
It's
you're here at the
official.
beginning. Yes, it's all show business bullshit. How are you guys? You good?
We're good. The weather's beautiful here in Los Angeles. We had a crazy rainy winter, but yeah, it's getting back to our regular LA temperatures, which feels nice.
That sounds good. We're like mid northeast spring, which means half incredibly beautiful and half awful. And like
I remember.
in succession. So yeah. I want to talk about Totimoshi.
Okay.
I want to talk about Caterwaul Fest. Before I do that, I feel compelled to say that golly, that All Souls record you guys put out last year was magnificent. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And my understanding of the Caterwaul Fest thing was All Souls couldn't do it. So Totimoshi is just, oh, here's this other band we have.
Yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We were committed to doing it, and then there was a scheduling conflict with at first Tony Tournay. Fatso Jetson confirmed European dates. They're going to be gone. I think he leaves on the 3rd of May. And so he was not available. So, and then Alice was not available because Black Sabbath is also going to be in Europe for about a month. So that got me thinking because Conan, we used to play with his band Replicator. Totimoshi and Replicator would play together in the Bay Area, and he was a writer for either The Guardian or the SF Weekly. I can't remember, but he wrote about us a couple of times. He would put on like noise rock picnics outdoors. So he was a big proponent of our scene.
It's a good idea.
And when we were not available, when All Souls was not available, I thought, why not ask our drummer, Chris, who's moved back to Kansas City, if he was available to do it first before I offered it up. He's been playing music. We've been playing music. It's just a matter of relearning those songs, but, we're all in music shape.
And we've stayed close. We've never drifted apart from each other.
Yeah, we've kept in touch.
We've always been.
But we never really talked about a reunion. We just.
We never really officially broke up either.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the other.
We never made an announcement.
The other catalyst was we had gone to Mexico City.
Oh yeah.
And we did a radio interview in Mexico City via some friends of ours, and they seemed really interested in talking about Totimoshi. And about bringing Totimoshi potentially to Mexico City and to do like 4 or 5 dates and maybe do like some Central American stuff or maybe some South American stuff.
Yeah, so that kind of planted the seed where we're like, wow, we still have fans out there, and they're not just in the United States. They're kind of scattered all across. I mean, we did tour in Europe. We did 3 pretty big tours in Europe, and it's like, why not? We're available. Let's do it, So that's how that pretty much came together. There seemed to be enough interest to bring it back. The timing seemed right.
Are you guys going to go to Mexico with
we're not sure. We're in touch with a person that is a booking agent down there.
Is it Roman Tomeo?
He was one of the guys that did the interview.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was actually someone who's putting me in touch with people about touring down there.
I've never met him, but he seems very nice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And super into our style of music,
Yeah.
So the potential is there. It's just a matter of logistics and money because I'm sure you're aware that touring now, as opposed to pre-pandemic, everything's changed. I mean, there's a glut of bands that are touring that, had like a 2 or 3 year break. So everyone's out there at once. It's kind of hard to book shows. You got to book them really far in advance. And then everything's a lot more expensive now with gas and van rentals and hotels. It seems like things have almost doubled in price. So, you know, it was hard before. It's making it almost impossible now to do anything but like little regional things
I think that,
financially.
yeah, and that's I think what we wanted. If Totimoshi does anything, it would like more like, you know, festivals or like a few things here or there.
Yeah, we're
I don't know.
not jumping in a van and
Not,
doing
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you did, right? For years, that was Totomoshi's thing. I mean,
Yes, yeah, we
you know,
did.
there was a record and then you were out, and
Yeah,
that was it.
I think we average 2 full US tours a year, usually one in the spring and one in the fall.
Which isn't easy when you're not making a lot of money. You know, it's like basically you tour, you fall into a money pit, and then you come home and you try to recover. You work as much as possible, and then save up money, and then record the next album. Unless you get like some, we only I think only two of the records, two of the six were paid for by a label.
Hmm.
So like the rest of it was funded by us, by me and Meg, basically. And
Mhm.
like one of the records, I think Mysterioso, what we recorded in 3 days because we didn't have money to do longer. You know, so like it's basically it's a live album.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things we would have done differently if, you know, we had the time and the money, but, you know, you live and learn and you just kind of feel it out along the way.
So I guess I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the two albums with label support were the Volcom ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those were cool records. Don't
Thank
get
you.
me wrong.
It was nice having an actual budget, you
Yeah.
know, like something we could actually work with. You know,
I
and to take a
I
week.
would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, how do you? Okay, in light of the fact that, you know, everything is different now. It's been, well, it was last time I saw Totomoshi was 2011.
Hmm.
So, you know, it's been 12 years. I think it was 2013. You guys said that. Well, I guess when Chris had moved out of left
Okay.
California for the
Yeah.
Midwest, and you know, sort of all this coming back together. Given the chance that obviously you have now to kind of reflect on what Totomoshi was, aside
Mhm.
from the kind of surprise that people are still into it, not that they wouldn't be. I still very much enjoy those records. I had Avenger on the other day. Um, how do you feel about that band now?
Well, I've recently started relearning the songs that we're going to do in the set.
Mhm.
Um, like from looking at it now from the perspective of where I am as an artist and as a person, like I see it as a period. Like, well, first off, it was something that was created with a tuning, a very specific tuning,
Guitar tuning.
a guitar tuning that I had to that where I literally, in order just to make it simple, because we were playing these like opening sets all the time, and because we were, you know, the money situation and stuff, and I couldn't take more than one guitar on the road normally. I wrote everything in the specific tuning for Totimoshi.
Yeah.
So it was sort of I seen it sort of like artistically speaking as sort of like like a blue, you know, like Picasso's blue period or something like something like a period thing. Like this is
Mhm.
going to be what it is, and all the songs are going to be written within this construct of this tuning. You know, I mean, um, that's before I learned like a lot of the different methods of rasgueado and the things that I've learned flamenco wise with my fingering and stuff.
Mhm.
And I think like the approach is just so different. It's so aggressive.
Mhm.
It's so simplistic in a lot of ways. Um, but it's also really hard.
It's complex.
I was trying to
But it's
relearn it.
it's complex in a different way. I think that it's for me, it's more muscular, it's more aggressive. I mean, even though we did have sort of like pop songs and more melodic, softer songs on those records, a lot of it did come out of anger, I think.
Well, we were younger.
We were younger. We
Not that
were
that we're not like there's still some anger in some of the All Souls music, but I think that it's a different
we
perspective
approach it
now.
differently, I think too.
Yeah, Yeah, and I don't scream anymore. I just sing.
Yeah, so the singing has definitely changed a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you're going to approach that.
I can do it. It's just I'm not going to scream
I
though.
could
Do it with.
well, well, I mean, you wouldn't. I mean, okay, think about Al Cisneros doing Sleep, right?
Mhm.
And when they came back, it was a very definite like, what's Al gonna do on vocals? And you know that change worked. You might find as you know, if you do
Yeah.
more than one show, something
Yeah.
to
Well,
explore.
towards the end of Totimoshi, I was only singing
Yeah.
because I literally I hammered my voice so badly that I lost my falsetto for about a year, and it really scared me, and it made me change the way that I approach my voice.
Hmm.
And then over the course of years, my voice, because like with Totimoshi, the most important thing to me was always the guitar playing. Like so I wrote all the songs revolving around the guitar, and as time went on, with Alma Sangre, and then with I was in a different band, and then I was in All Souls. My voice started to be my main instrument, and I would actually write with my voice more than I did with the guitar, and then I would translate things to the guitar.
Hmm.
So my vocals are now like like the first thing that I think of when it comes to songwriting.
How much of Ghosts Among Us was written like that?
Ghosts Among Us. Well, I mean, Ghosts Among Us. You know, a lot of that record was written on a ukulele,
I've heard
like
those. I've heard some of those demos.
yeah. So, um, and then translated to a guitar later on. So it wasn't necessarily like, I mean, yeah, a lot of it. Like I would take walks, and I would write in my head, and then I would hear like different parts, and then I would sing them to the recorder, and then I would my phone now, and then I would just come home and I would translate that, you know. But the vocal, all of the melodies were written, a lot of them were written apart from my instrument, and
Hmm.
then I would go and translate it, and then I would put chords and stuff underneath it in order to fill it out.
Yeah, I think you hear, I mean, he hears a lot in his head before it ever even gets transcribed to an instrument. It's just part of his way of
That is a
writing.
maddening process,
Hmm.
right? When it's here and you're trying to get it here or here.
Well,
It's
it depends on, I think, what time of day it happens, you know what I mean? Or like when it comes, if he's in the middle of something else. I mean, I'll have to say, oftentimes, like if I see him staring off into space, I know better just to be like, hey, you know, can you fold the laundry? Or like he's deep in like writing in his brain. And you know, sometimes it's hard for him to shift sides of that brain to do like the menial everyday sort of stuff.
well before they when we were at Totimoshi, we had a drummer who used to call it Tony Town,
Yeah.
and like it's oh he's off in Tony Town somewhere, like and they would. And then I had teachers like when early in my life they would I got yelled at like in class a few times because I would be spacing out. I would be drawing pictures like in the sky. I would be sitting there and drawing pictures.
Mhm.
Like one time I didn't notice that an entire class was looking at me, and I was sitting there drawing a picture. And they
Do you
all
remember
started.
what you were drawing?
I mean, I would always start with the eye, and then I would draw like from there on. That was always the focus, and then I would draw like from that.
Okay.
I had a very specific way of drawing. Um, yeah, when I was a little kid, I used to win like art contests and stuff like that. But I didn't understand that other people didn't
Right.
hear it that way. I always assumed that everybody like heard the parts, and then I would like during the Totimoshi days, I would get mad at people because like they weren't. I thought they were fucking with me. Like, well, don't you hear it? Like, how can't you hear that? And I realized that later on in life that people's brains are different, you know, and that I have a very specific thing that I can do that some people can't.
Isn't it kind of amazing to like grow up and realize that like all the shit that makes you who you are is just like weird brain stuff,
Yeah,
right? It's astonishing. That's like
Yeah.
as I move into middle age, that's like holy shit. It turns out that I'm just fucking weird.
well,
Um,
it's trauma. Trauma creates some portions of artistic.
there is that.
It's sort of a protective thing that I think that I created when I was a little kid from whatever I was going through.
Mhm.
And I think that I was able to go into my mind to get away from whatever was happening. And that eventually led to me being a musician. I mean, I was an artist too before, and I used to write short stories as well when I was younger.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's always something that I've been able to do, and like so it's yeah. So the focus, like I was saying like before, like the focus on with Totimoshi was always like guitar first because I wasn't really a singer until later in my life, and then I started to get more and more focused on the singing.
Now the narrative I have for that in my head, and I think this is from talking about All Souls previously, is kind of that Alma Sangre was where that happened.
Mhm.
It
Is that
is,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
Is it strange then to kind of put that aside, relearn Totimoshi, and sort of dive back into that intensity?
they're they're different approaches to music, but they're weirdly like encompassed in the same circle. They're um they're of the same mindset, even though Alma Sangre is in Spanish.
Mhm.
You know, I grew up Mexican American with the first language that I learned was Spanish, but English took over, and now I dream in thinking English completely. And I'm not as articulate in Spanish as like I am in English. Like I can hold a conversation, but I can't really express myself in Spanish like I can in English.
Mhm.
So I often have, when I write lyrics, I have to refer to like Google Translate and stuff like that in order. But when I sing it, it's really easy for me to sing, and it's easy for me to get like emotions across for some reason because I think because of the way that I grew up and the emotive way that my family was and the expressiveness that they were able to show me. Like they're very like I mean every culture is expressive, you know. But and my family was very sincere and they were very expressive and they were able to they always showed their emotions. And my mom was bipolar, and she had two extreme emotions, you know. So like so for
I
it's
had
easy
one of
for
those.
me to
Yeah.
dial that in. It's like I guess it's like an actor, right? It's easy for me to dial that in immediately with the three different what would you call that? Like the three different faces that me and Meg have in our lives, which is Totimoshi, Alma Sangre, and All Souls. They're different faces, but you know, circular, like sort of like lyrically, like kind of coming from the same place.
Mhm.
That's for sure.
I think lyrically and emotionally coming from the same place.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You
Mhm.
know, they're both political and they're both also psychological, like sort of assessments of past experience.
Mhm.
Personal, right? It's political and
Yeah.
personal,
Sure. Yeah. I
right?
mean,
It's
we
hard
just
to.
can't avoid it. We just we are reacting to our environment, and trying to process that through lyrics and songwriting. And it's a way for us to deal with what's going on. These are crazy times.
I've
And
heard that.
they've been crazy. They've
Yes.
been crazy ever since, we started writing for Totimoshi. We started writing about what was happening around us, and going back now and listening to some of those lyrics. I was trying to relearn Dance of Snakes last night, and it's like so much of the stuff we were writing and singing about are exactly it compares to what we're living through right now still, and
Still,
like nothing's changed.
still relevant. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Isn't that
exactly.
kind of sad in a way? Yeah.
It's sad, but
Yeah.
you know what? I mean, some of these themes are timeless,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong. Yeah.
I mean,
Mm.
I'm looking at our set list right now, and like Vader, for example, like that was a dive into the priests, abusing children, the Catholic priests abusing abusive children that was sort of starting to kind of come out um, into the mainstream during that day, and that was like me trying to take it from a priest's perspective of basically destroying a child and eating a child. It's like the idea of like I mean that's like we would rather do that than write about hobgoblins and fucking wizards and all this bullshit that a lot of stoner bands write about.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's just the easy fucking road, to go down.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No shade.
Songs about
Or maybe sing about my penis.
what now?
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Um, Look, I'm not saying that hobgoblins and wizards can't be a metaphor for something, but
The other
you're
thing.
right. You're right. You're absolutely correct. There is a set of fucking images and like it can be electric, it could be orange, it can be this, it could be this, it could be this, and that is sort of the tenets, the tropes of the genre. And one thing that Totimoshi has always done very well is not that.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I would say, from start to finish, first finish,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, I think
you
also
guys
that
never
goes for
fit.
All Souls as well. It's like, and it's
Also
kind of a
true.
blessing and a curse because, where do we fit? What are we? Like, I don't even know. I
I
mean,
just
we're
never
rock, whatever,
we
but
never cared. We never cared about fitting into any genre or fitting into
well, you
any
care when you're
group of
trying to sell
people.
music and like
That's
describe your music.
Right.
So if
Right.
you know what we are, you let me know.
I Look, I have been on board since Monolith.
Mm.
And I have been writing. I have wrote about Totimoshi first
Yeah, I
run.
know. I
You
have
know,
everything saved.
that's
Thank
it.
you.
I remember very clearly getting those records and being like, well, shit, it's Totimoshi again. And what do you say about it? And that's actually something I very much enjoy about your work continuing in
Mhm.
All Souls is especially as melody has become so much more of a part of that sphere. It's
Mhm.
like born out of punk, born out of that intensity, but sort of flourished into this own thing, and it is not genre.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's interesting too because there's recently I was hearing Alice Bag. um well, I was reading it. She was talking about Chicano influence in punk rock.
Hmm.
That is somewhat erased in a lot of ways. That a lot of people, like when I was in San Francisco in the '90s, like I heard a guy in a coffee shop refer to punk rock as our music, as white people's music, and it's not their music. And then it's sort of like this. It's this weird, like kind of like a Tucker Carlson sort of erasure of like whatever influence like any community has had into like this certain specific genre of types of music. And in a lot of ways, like it's interesting because like a lot of this just in this Trump era, a lot of these musicians that have been like these underground musicians are suddenly being exposed as these like kind of white supremacist kind of weirdo, you know, people with these weird mentalities that have long been a part of the scene, but all of a sudden people are like, "Oh my God, this guy thinks this way."
You're
You know,
talking you're talking about like the John Joseph crowd, like that
yeah.
sort of.
And then so Mona Lee, for example, Mona Lee is a Spanish translation of Monolith, California, which is
Yeah.
the town. It was the company town where my dad lived when he started working at Monolith Portland Cement Company. It was segregated. Um, a lot of those songs are specifically about my experience as a Chicano growing up, having to work in the fields as a child with child labor,
Mhm.
literally like 6 years old. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who we just played a show with. He was a drummer in Alice Austin's band, and we had the same experience. He was Mexican American. He had to work in the fields as a child, and we were talking about child labor laws and how they don't apply to us. They apply to a
Yeah.
specific, very specific group of Americans, but they don't apply. They don't. They don't apply to a lot of dark skinned people in our culture,
That's
and
still going on.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
important.
No, it is. Yeah.
It was always
Agricultural.
important for me as a Chicano, especially, and I'm not speaking like, everybody can have their perspective, but it's important for somebody like me to have a say um, in a genre specific world. Like, okay, so what? This is my perspective. You know, this is who I am. I'm not coming from Orange County, like some white suburban area. And unfortunately, because our country is so segregated still to this day, you know, there are perspectives that are elevated that often aren't from a perspective of the dark skinned person. You know, so granted, I always did that in Totimoshi. I'm definitely doing that in Alma Sangre, and I'm still doing that in All Souls. You know, um, that's another connection, is that it's going to be that perspective that's going to be given, whether people want to take it or not.
Well,
You know,
I don't know that people want to take it because I feel like in a way, you know, if you look at the festivals, like say in our genre of whatever that is, like the hard rock, stoner rock, like look across the board at the demographic of the people that play those festivals. It's usually white men. Like very few women are involved, very few people of color are invited. And I hate to think that maybe that has held us back, but I do find that there are gatekeepers
No, fuck
in the
that. That has
community.
definitely been a
And
fucking factor.
it's something
And
that I
yeah,
started
no, it's
realizing that, you know, that seems to be how it is, you know, and I don't know. I mean, I don't want to
no,
say that's true, but that's definitely what I'm observing at this point.
at the
I
beginning of the Trump years, I was called a wetback by a guy on an old football. Like, well, I played football when I was young, and we had won state championship, and there were all these guys that were on this like little email feed, and they were going back and forth with each other. And my brother had gotten in touch with me, and one of them had told him like, "Hey man, like these guys are planning some trip. You know, I didn't want to see any of them, and I was like, well, you know, you can give them my email, but I'm not going to go." Instead, what it was a feed, and all these guys were talking about the glory years, and they were literally going play by play about what happened this game, and eventually, like one of the guys chimed in and said, "Don't listen to the Jose's on here." I was like, "Who's this?" And then I realized I knew who the guy was, and then he called me a wetback, literally on the feed. This is like, and you know, we're old guys now, man. Like we aren't young anymore. But this is the manifestations. This is what happens with the Trump years, and this is at the very beginning of the Trump years, where people are now feel emboldened to just basically come out with their racist bullshit.
Or
And
to include or not include you into a circle or an event. So in any case, I mean, it's interesting now that we're sort of branching back into our old projects and Alma Sangre, which is very Latino centric, you know, singing in Spanish, dancing flamenco, playing Spanish guitar. We've already been like welcomed into this Latin community and given opportunities like immediately.
mhm.
And that's been really refreshing, you know. So, you know, we're just going to go where the doors open for us. I don't want to keep pushing on doors that are just locked, you know. So, you know, we've been fiercely independent from day one, and we're going to continue to do that. You know, and if there are people that want to support us or invite us, you know, we're happy to play. But, you know, we just want to go where the love is and where the support is. And it's there, you know, it's just, we got to find it.
I also want to be bold. I don't want to. I'm not going to fold. I'm not going to give in to what they whoever expects whatever they want of us. Like, you know, I feel like, you know what's weird, man, is I was I was reading the lyrics to Avenger because I'm relearning all these old Totimoshi songs, and in there I talk about I will slash and wear your skin. I will treat you not
Yes.
to look at me. So the whole point of that song was, it was, I was really into Nina Simone at the time, and she wrote a song
Mhm,
called Pirate Jenny,
mhm.
which is her as a slave, taking the role as a slave person on a slave ship, and sort of plotting the murder of all of her captors, and you know, so I wanted to write sort of an idea, like a thematic song like that. So I wrote Avenger. It's sort of like this theme piece as this child who's, you know, like kind of being messed with, and how he's going to get back at people. But one of them was, I will slash and wear your skin.
Which I was like, are you really going to put that on that song? That is fucking brutal.
So a few years ago, Meg gave me a DNA test. I'll go through this really quickly. So like
As a gift.
as a gift, I found out my DNA. Like it's not that surprising. There were some twists and turns, but you know, like mostly indigenous and then some Spanish and then some other things. So I gave it to a cousin of mine. I was like, hey, you know, like I did my DNA because she told me if I ever did it, like to let her know. And I let her know, and then she put me in touch with a different cousin who I didn't know from my mother's side, who was sort of had investigated our family. She'd gone to Mexico. She's a licensed attorney in Texas, and she's a judge in Texas, but she's also a licensed attorney in Mexico, and she runs this like really amazing, prominent company that takes people across for medical services. And she knows like Vicente Fox and stuff like that. So she knew like this. She got to meet these people that basically helped her figure out my mother's side of the family, which is what the side that me and her joined at. It turns out, which I didn't know because I'd grown up in poverty, that my great grandfather was actually a multimillionaire, that they were hacienderos, that some of my ancestors, like my 13th generational grandfather was Moctezuma, literally Moctezuma. Leonor de Moctezuma is one of my grandmothers, and Moctezuma, the leader of the Aztec, like the
like
but
the okay.
but also in my family lineage, in the exact same lineage, is Cortez, is Hernando de Soto, who was with Pizarro when they defeated when they basically destroyed the Incan Empire. When he was with Ponce de Leon when they destroyed Florida. He was a guy who was literally the first European to ever set foot in what is now the United States of America. Destroyed Zuni villages, destroyed like literal like in massive amounts, like just huge swaths of indigenous people, like just destroyed, and were some of the people who literally were responsible for this supposed conquest, which was really, I mean, an indigenous takeover. It wasn't really a conquest in that side of the world. But so it's really been a mind fuck for me, always seeing myself as an indigenous person, from the dark skin perspective, to now have to reverse and see myself from also this perspective of these people that were
conquerors,
brutal, brutal conquerors, and really responsible for a lot of the takeover of North America.
So tell me the story about the lyric.
So the lyric, the I will slash and wear your skin, is directly related to the Aztec. Like I was thinking about the Aztec when I wrote that, not knowing that I was literally related, because I didn't think I was Aztec. I knew that my father was Otomi Indian who fought against the Aztec during the conquest. They fought with the Tlaxcala and with the Spanish to basically take down Tenochtitlan. I didn't know that I was also had Aztec blood in me when I wrote that lyric, and it kind of shows you like this weird DNA shit.
The story about that the Indian and the daughter or wife.
Oh, this is one of the reasons that the Tlaxcala apparently hated the Aztec, were because the Tlaxcala had the chieftain had given one of his daughters to one of the chiefs of the Mexica, of the Aztec, to marry, and they were invited to a festival months later, and they had taken her and boiled her and skinned her, and an Aztec dancer came out wearing her skin in front of the father, and so that was like this brutal shit, you know. Like, so it's made me like see this whole world in a completely different light.
Well, and also how, you know, thinking about our DNA and what it carries and what we bring through all of these different lifetimes. You know, we're here because of conquerors and survivors and people who did what they had to do in order to like live out and procreate. And some of that shit was completely brutal. But the fact that that story like literally lived in his DNA, and he wrote a lyric about it that ended up on the song Avenger, and then years later we find out like something specific that actually happened. It's pretty wild. I think I'm kind of fascinated by how our artistic brains work and what comes through unconsciously, that, you know, it's not premeditated. Stuff just comes out of us.
Right.
Rhythms come out of us, melodies come out of us.
Yeah.
Where do they come from? You know,
But I think that there's like a gate that can open artistically in your mind, that can open sort of pathways to like other worlds and previous worlds, and DNA and things that have affected us, you know, in our present lives, that might have been from something that was DNA wise, like inside of you internally, you know. And it's really neat to have this, because like she literally goes, so me and that cousin that I was talking about meet at our great grandparents. They were brother and sister, so we have the exact same family from there on. To see this map of these people that literally go all the way back to pre-Columbian America, you
it's
know,
like 1300s now.
yeah. So like, and it's like literally person per person per person per person. And
Wow.
there are wikis of other people that were in my family.
Well, it turned out that he had a person that ended up being one of the rulers, this woman who ruled Cuba for a while, and there's a statue of her.
She was the wife of Hernando de Soto, and when Soto left with Ponce de Leon, or he didn't leave with Ponce, he left to do an expedition of the Americas, of what the Mississippi Valley basically. So starting in Florida and then going up to Georgia. So he left her in Cuba, and she became the first governor of Cuba.
So there's a statue of her in this castle that's in Habana Vieja, where my grandmother and my dad lived. And we were there a couple of years ago, and we got to go see the statue. And I mean, we've been to Cuba many times, and Tony's come with me a few times. And it was the first time going there where he realized that he had people from there as well. So it's interesting.
Her name was Isabel de Bobadillo. And so it's a mind fuck, because, you know, like all my like growing up from like I said, from a dark person's perspective, but then realizing that I'm actually from European people that are literally related to like the King of Spain, Queen of Portugal, or vice versa, who were also related to every other person who was ruling in Europe, because they were all cousins.
Right.
They're all literally family.
Yes.
So like, I mean, I'm sure
massive inbreeding. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of us go like DNA wise go back
Mexican
to the same
people in general. I mean, isn't that why they call themselves La Raza? It's like they're this mixed people, this indigenous blood mixed with Spanish blood.
Yeah. But then my father, like I said, was Otomi, and they're the ones that fought against the Mexica. So it's like this like fucking weird, like, you know, it's like it's so easy to look at a person and just judge them like that because of the skin color. But the truth is that this interaction, this interrelationship of humanity, it's so deep and it's so complex. I mean, I have people in my family that are as light skinned as Meg, you know, or green eyed, and I just happen to win the dark skin lottery. Yeah, you know, that I think Chris Rock talks about. But yeah, man, it's been a mind fuck with this stuff, and it just literally happened within the last like year or two, like really like kind of 2 years.
So I mean, yeah, okay. So you go through your life kind of with an identity, right, set sort of in your head of who you are, and you have to sort of revisit and expand that identity now, right? Yeah. So okay, and obviously that's going to affect how you interact with and view your past work as well, as you sort of
it's starting to lyrically take hold. Yeah. That's and then I started reading books on anthropological books on pre-Columbian America, and there's entire new anthropological studies that are coming into like these new assessments of you know, pre-Columbian America. And it's just so interesting, you know, so massively interesting. But I think it ties into Totimoshi, like it ties into the three bands in a weird way, like maybe subconsciously in a weird way. Now that I look back, you
Well, yeah,
Now that
and
we're
yeah,
redoing
so
Totimoshi.
yeah, we're relearning, we're re-listening to some of those lyrics, and it's some of it is as important to us now as it was to us then. So I think it's going to be wild, you know, to play those songs again. It's going to be exciting and fun, and you know, it's like they're a little bit more aggressive than this all soul stuff, and you know,
Yeah.
getting out there as a power trio is always a good time. So we're really looking forward to the festival, and just to see, you know, who's still out there, who remembers us.
Hmm.
It's been a while.
Anybody.
Yes, it's been a while. It's fine. We could say that. It's been a while. So I mean, okay, let's say Caterwaul Fest happens. This is great, super fun. Everybody's having a good time. Does Totimoshi do more?
We're open to it, you know. We have another drummer that's willing to that lives in Oakland.
Wait a second. You
Well,
mean to
there were like
say
10,
you're
right?
getting enough?
I'm open to it if we start putting out some singles. And I don't want to like go down the whole album world with
Okay.
Totimoshi. I feel like that kind of album genre or that album like sort of format is kind of dying anyways. But I want to do like some songs. I've already written like something that I think is a Totimoshi song, and I could easily write more. Like the flow could happen really quickly.
What's it called?
But I would like to do that. I would like to do like one or two new Totimoshi songs and just kind of put them out there. I mean, you know, there's
Do
no,
you have a name for that song yet?
well, no.
Yeah, so that usually comes last.
Yeah.
Curious. Fair enough.
It's different though. It's a different approach now.
It would
So,
have to be.
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
I mean, it's been over a decade. You know,
Well over what, like 12, at least 12 years.
12 years. Yeah, 12
Yeah.
years since Avenger. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't. I love that expectation that it's like someone's going to restart a band and then all of a sudden it's going to be 1988 again.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, that's not.
Well,
But anyway.
Sleep did it.
Yeah, they didn't though. They didn't though because
Well, it took them a long time to write their next record.
yeah, it did. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know.
Did they
But,
write a record or-
Yeah, they released a record.
Oh, it's the full one. I used to tour with those guys.
I know. It's okay. Yeah, but yeah, they did a record. It was pretty cool. Is there a and I say this with the knowledge that like every Totimoshi record, every All Souls record offers something that builds on what came before it. Is there for you a definitive Totimoshi statement? Like looking at the set list, where does most of it come from? Or is it just spread out?
It's spread out. I mean, I don't think there's nothing from the first album. But
Is that it? Hold it up. Let's see it. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to.
no, we can show it to you if you want.
It could be secrets.
No.
You can keep secrets.
I think a lot of it is just like we voted. The three of us like kind of voted on what do we want to play, and I had a few songs that I definitely wanted to do.
Okay.
And then Meg and Chris had some songs as well, and then we kind of
it spans most of the albums, I would say. But you know, going back and listening to the albums from start to finish, you know, it'd be interesting to put out like the best of Totimoshi, because I think it would be like a masterpiece, because there are really, really incredible songs on each album.
You're missing a song.
I am.
Yeah.
But you know, there are songs that I feel like we could rewrite and make better, or we would do differently. You know, so we're sort of cherry picking our favorites that sound the best to us now, where we are, you know, and in playing music. And I think that our fans would like us to play also.
Well, it's also some of the songs I didn't want to sing anymore. Like I just didn't want to go down that road of singing certain lyrics. So that was specific to me.
Okay. Most urgent song for both of you that you had to play? It was like, oh,
Um,
I have three.
yeah, it's hard to
I'll take three.
whittle them down. What are your three?
My three were Viva Zapata, because to me that's
That's like an anthem.
I even remember exactly where I was when I wrote that.
It's kind of a given. Yeah.
I was literally like I can envision right where I was sitting. And
Where were you?
I was in a backyard of a friend's house in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
I was just sitting with an acoustic that I used to take on the road to write, and I just started that riff, and then I liked it, and then I started working on it more and more and more, and I had literally written the entire song by the time we left the house. And then Avenger, because I feel like Avenger was sort of a breakthrough songwriter wise for me, in the way rhythmically, the way that it constructed different kind of three different sort of patterns, like kind of brought them together in a very specific sort of way. And so I felt like it was a really good breakthrough. And Dance of Snakes, because I love the imagery of it, because I love the entire idea of the mysticism. Sort of.
I'm gonna pick Seeing Eye. For some reason, the opening riff to that song, I've continued to play at every sound check we ever do. For some reason, that just bored its way into my world. So yeah, that song kind of lives on in me, and I love playing that song live. We played it live on really big stages all across America and Europe, and I love playing that song live. It's like super it can be super aggressive. It's got a lot of stops. It's really dynamic. I'm gonna love playing Whisper live also, and that we have a new video for that I made that was really fun to revisit that song again. And
I think I'm premiering that video.
Reminds me a little bit of All Souls, just the vibe of it. It's kind of a little slower, kind of sad and melodic, and it's got a lot of feeling to it. So that one I'm really excited to play. And then also Cellophane, because that one harkens back to That Mysterioso. That's one of the oldest songs we're going to break out on this set. And that just kind of goes back to like our very beginning. And, you know, it's a really well constructed song. It's like, you know, we knew what we were doing back then.
Yeah.
Carry that over.
Just verse chorus.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's got a vibe. It's got like a darkness to it that I like, and I also like that video a lot. Our friend Lynn Geza made. It's got a lot of Dia de los Muertos imagery on that one. So if anybody wants to go back and look at that video, it's all up on YouTube. You can find it everywhere. But yeah, so those are our favorites. But yeah, there's more.
Well, good. I mean, yeah, I should hope so. Okay. And what happens next with All Souls?
I've already written half of, or more like 3/4 of an album.
Okay.
That,
so that happens. That's cool.
Well, unfortunately, Tony's like got into this sort of work mode where he has to work a lot right now. So we haven't been working as much as we were before when we were writing Ghosts.
Yeah, Ghost was written during the pandemic where, you know, everything locked down.
Nothing but time.
Nothing but time.
Nothing but time.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we were like, well, we're not going to play music. Like, this is the best time to be creative. Like, we're not working. We have to do something. Yeah. So we went into the studio, and that's pretty much around the time that Eric quit the band.
It was literally the time.
Yeah. So we went in as a 3-piece and like pretty much 4 or 5 days a week created our little pod. And
then we tried to bring another guitar player in, but he didn't work out. And then
All Souls is 2 guitar players, as Totimoshi is 2 drummers.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. But so yeah, we worked like crazy as a 3-piece writing that album. And then of course, when Alan Johannes came in to do some pre-production, he had a lot of great ideas, and just sitting with him playing guitar with Alan was just like
He didn't restructure any of the songs.
No, he just added some solos,
structured perfectly.
Yeah.
added some keyboards.
Yeah, I left a bunch of holes. I was like, dude, you got to do something here.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, so that was great. But so yeah, now the time that we're putting into it is changing a little bit because people are back at work, and we have members that are in other bands now, and we're doing Alma Sangre. So as soon as those guys get back from Europe in June, I think we'll probably get back into the rehearsal studio.
Hopefully, I mean, the way that we used to before we had the pandemic to give us the time, was we used to go write 3 songs at a time and then go record them, and then go write 3, and it was just a continuous process. This is before we had money, which we had. I mean, we didn't have money before, but then luckily enough, we made enough money on the tour to basically pay for 2 albums, and then now we're out of money. so it's going to be another one of those, wait until we have money things. But I've been writing for All Souls already. Like, I have a bunch of songs.
Yeah, there's no shortage of material or ideas.
Right.
It's just a matter of getting everybody together and
flesh it out, and then
fleshed out,
and then like everybody has their say, and then their input, and then start thinking about the counterpoint stuff, and then just go and record it.
Yeah.
So.
But I think in the immediate future, we're focused on Totimoshi. We have the show coming up the 28th of May, I believe.
Well, we've been focusing on Alma Sangre like
crazy.
I've been writing for that like nuts. Like, I think I have 2 new songs.
Come on, man. Meg's trying to plug the show.
I know. Yeah. Show.
Well, and then we have an Alma Sangre show coming up this Friday in downtown LA at the Oracle Tavern. But yeah, so right now we're sort of Alma, Totimoshi, and then once our Alice and Tony get back from Europe, we'll get back to All Souls. But yes, compartmentalizing.
Totally, right?
Shifting.
Yeah. It's kind of incredible.
It's great. I mean, what better thing than to just do nothing but music right now? It's awesome.
It's great. It's
writing for 3 different projects at one time. It's If only there was a global pandemic.
Another,
right?
Yes.
With money.
Well, no, because we want to perform.
A pandemic
We
of
want
money.
to perform in front of people. Don't say that. We want to,
Right.
keep the live shows happening.
Yeah, no, I
That
don't.
was terrible.
I'm not really wishing.
I look back on time; it was the best of times.
Not really wishing for that. I think on that happy note, I'm going to let you guys go.
The best of end times.
The best of end times. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
A lot of people.
Thank you guys both for taking time, for hanging out. And I know it's earlier on that end. Thank you for working with my weird schedule.
Thanks for all your support, man.
Yeah, we really appreciate you.
None of this shit. Yeah, I'm going to stop the recording. Hang on a second. Here we go.